Ron Craig here, discussing with you the way it really is, according to God's written word. Bible truth you may or may not already know. Bible truth you need to know. Bible truth you can know. And Bible truth you can check out with your own Bible. YouTube channel, Bible Realities, Lesson 3. Although this Bible lesson would fit well on my other Bible teaching channel, Where is God?, I believe it fits on this channel as well. The reason I believe so is that this lesson is a further exposition of some of the scripture passages that I presented in the previous lesson. One is Romans 1:20, which says that from the beginning God's invisible attributes are clearly seen by human beings, even His eternal power and Godhead, His divinity. From where then do false ideas about God come? The following will explain it. One reason for worldwide confusion about God in these days is that natural evidence points only to God's power, not to His nature. Although many believe some kind of supernatural being brought into existence those things they sense with their five senses, what they see, hear, taste, smell, and feel, senses cannot detect the spirit realm, which reveals the good nature of the Creator. Many inventions and events on this planet are not products of God's creation, but come from a different source and not a good one. But how can there be anything in God's universe that God did not create, someone might ask? I thought that God created everything. Do you believe God created sin? There's plenty of sin in the world. But why would God judge sin if sin is actually part of His own creation? That would be inconsistent with God's nature, which is holy, righteous, honest, and shows no favoritism to anyone. Who created sin, then? People do not realize that sin is not a created entity. Sin is the perversion of the things God created. The devil has no creative ability because he himself is only a created being. He is an angel, not God. Only the Creator has the wisdom and ability to create. Satan did, however, develop an uncanny ability to deceive both other angels and human beings. And what things does he use to deceive? The things God created. Satan, having no creative ability of his own, he has nothing of his own to tempt people with. So, he must use what God created to tempt people to sin against God. That is one of the tough things God has to deal with in governing His universe. But God is able to keep overall control of it all. God did not create a bunch of robots, either in the angelic realm or the human realm. He gave both angels and human beings a free will, the freedom to make choices. Of course, that was dangerous, but the Creator obviously considered it worth all the risks involved. And if you are familiar with Isaiah 14, Ezekiel 28, and Genesis 3, then you're aware that both angels and human beings misuse their freedom to choose. And that in the very light of God's strict warnings about the price of disobedience, at least in the human realm. And angels should have known better than to rebel against God, whom they could see in the spirit realm. Lucifer, the anointed cherub, Ezekiel 28:14, had rebelled in the dateless past and was permitted by the Creator to test mankind's loyalty. Man failing that test by heeding Satan's words and flouting God's clear warning about the forbidden tree, he allowed Satan, the fallen angel, Lucifer, to become the God, the little god, of this age. Now I have to make clear that Satan, same as the devil, never became the god of the earth, the terrestrial ball we're living on, just the god or ruler of the fallen human race. And it is just for the rest of this evil age, not for eternity. So how can we know how to detect the things of God and the things of Satan? We have to look at the big picture of the world we live in. And only the Bible draws that picture correctly, the way it really is. What I tell you next will surely revolutionize the way you view life from now on. So let us delve into that biblical view. It is really not all that complicated. God created all things, not the perversion of created things. That is what sin is, the perversion of the things that God created. That very truth within itself ought to revolutionize the way you view the world and how it operates. But the biblical truth I share with you next is one of the most revolutionary realities you will ever learn in any Bible study. In the distant past, God created this material universe and the angelic realm. The Bible reveals some of the history of that pre-Adamite age. At least a third of the angels rebelled against their Creator and were thereafter doomed to eventual destruction. Check out Isaiah 14, verses 12 through 15, Ezekiel 28, verses 11 through 19, Matthew 8, 29, Matthew 25, 41, and Revelation 12, 9 and 20, 10. It is obvious that God gave angels freedom to choose. Then God created human beings and gave them a free will as well. God could have gotten no pleasure from robots that would have no choice but to do His will. Based upon that biblical information, let me now lay out the big picture of the modern confusion problem and why it is confusing. The material universe merely gets acted upon. It does not have a free will. However, moral creatures use their freedom to choose to act upon both the material universe and other free agents. All moral beings have their own agenda, that is, a program to accomplish their purpose. God has His purpose, and the devil has his purpose, and human beings have their purpose. And human beings' purposes in life are as varied as are their personalities. And all of those different personalities with their different agendas make for all the confusion in this old world. So when evaluating any situation, we must take into account all of the different personalities involved in the situation. Thus, it is wrong to blame God for every situation in the world. Nor can we blame every circumstance on the devil exclusively. Most situations, if not all, are the result of a combination of the devil's agenda, man's agenda, and God's agenda. God is always involved because He made the rules of nature. People are involved because as created beings they have needs and carry out their plans to meet their needs, sometimes honestly and sometimes deceptively. Therefore, some people try to help others, whereas some people take advantage of others. What part does the devil play in any negative circumstance? He is the deceiver, the tempter, the accuser of God and His people, and he is a destroyer. The devil is out to steal, kill, and destroy. John 10:10. The devil accuses God of lying, Genesis 3:1, and then blames God for tragedies the devil himself has caused. I hear that all of the time. God allowed my accident for a purpose. I'm glorifying God by my sickness. But Acts 10:38 tells us plainly that Christ healed all of those who were oppressed by the devil, not by God. Satan will accuse God to us believers, Genesis 3:1 again, and then turn right around and accuse us believers to God, trying to make us all look bad. See Revelation 12:10. Whereas God, our Creator, is always out to help His creation, Satan is always out to destroy all of creation he can. But what or who opens the door to the devil to get involved in human affairs? That is where human freedom to choose enters the picture. And humans do not always make right choices, which is obvious by looking at the big mess this world is in. Both God and the devil use people in achieving their agendas, their goals. Of course, one of God's primary goals is to help people have and enjoy life. And He looks for people whom He can empower to help others do just that. He wants to bless our spirits, our souls, our bodies, our families, and our ministries to other people. Every human being has a divine calling and purpose in life, and we will all be held accountable to God for it. The devil's goal is the very opposite. He is out to steal people's possessions, to ruin their health, and kill both their Christian testimony and their bodies, and always to lure them into sin so that they will face God's judgment in Hades, the eternal lake of fire, destruction. And Satan always seems to be able to find human beings who are willing to help him achieve his devilish goals. Our next lesson will be a follow-up on this one. In it, we will consider some biblical examples that prove the truths we have covered in this lesson. In those events, you will recognize God's part, the devil's part, and people's parts, both the good folks and the bad. You'll be very enlightened, no doubt about that. Once again, that is the way it really is.